By the conclusion of the 1990 World Cup in Italy, international football had reached a creative impasse. The tournament averaged a historic low of 2.21 goals per match, defined by hyper-defensive tactics, deliberate time wasting, and a stagnant commercial footprint. To inject vitality into their premier asset, FIFA made a highly unorthodox decision for the 1994 tournament. They bypassed traditional European football strongholds and awarded the hosting rights to the United States, a country where the sport was an afterthought, but the sport's infrastructure was massive. This map shows the scale of that infrastructure. Instead of intimate, purpose-built soccer stadiums, the organizers utilized colossal arenas built for American football across 9 major metropolitan areas. This allowed them to host over 3.5 million spectators, resulting in an average attendance of nearly 69,000 fans per match, a mathematical ceiling that remains unbroken even decades later. The extremes of this logistical effort were staggering. On the West Coast, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena accommodated over 91,000 spectators per game. In the Midwest, scientists at Michigan State University engineered a natural grass pitch capable of growing under artificial light, allowing the Pontiac Silverdome to host the first World Cup matches ever played in a fully indoor environment. This logistical operation coincided with a total redraw of the international map. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union and the fall of the Berlin Wall, Russia entered the tournament as an independent nation, while a newly unified Germany fielded players from both sides of the former Iron Curtain. Yet the core paradox of FIFA's decision remained. They were handing their most lucrative product to a host nation that lacked a viable top-tier professional domestic league. USA 94 functioned as a massive, calculated sociological test. FIFA was attempting to forcibly implant the global game into the most saturated, hermetic, and financially rewarding sports market on the planet. To ensure this experiment captured an American audience accustomed to high-scoring sports, FIFA's technical committee had to eliminate the defensive stalemates that plagued the 1990 tournament. They instituted a series of aggressive rule changes designed to artificially incentivize offense. The most critical mechanical intervention was the strict enforcement of the backpass rule. This diagram illustrates the problem and the solution. Previously, a defender under pressure could safely pass the ball back to their goalkeeper, who would simply pick it up, neutralizing the attack and killing the clock. By prohibiting goalkeepers from using their hands on deliberate passes from teammates, FIFA destroyed this defensive loop. Goalkeepers were suddenly forced to act as an 11th outfield player. They had to receive the ball at their feet and accurately distribute it under pressure, which stretched the passing geometry of the entire team and pushed defensive lines further up the pitch. Simultaneously, FIFA altered the mathematics of the group stage, awarding 3 points for a win instead of 2. This mathematical imbalance mathematically punished teams that played for a draw, forcing managers to risk late-game defensive stability in pursuit of an outright victory. Alongside these mechanical adjustments, the organization mandated specific aesthetic updates. Referees discarded their traditional black uniforms for highly visible colors to stand out on television, and for the first time, player names were printed directly above their squad numbers. Printing names on the kits served a precise commercial function. It allowed a global television audience to easily identify the athletes, turning individual players into distinct marketable assets and rapidly accelerating the global sale of replica jerseys. By combining systemic rule changes with highly visible commercial adjustments, FIFA re-engineered the mechanics of the sport. They created a faster, more offensive, individual-focused product specifically calibrated for American television. The structure of the 1994 tournament relied on a 2014 format, a design where not only the top 2 teams in each group advanced, but also the 4 highest-performing third-place teams. This structure created an environment of extreme mathematical volatility. This chart shows the final standings of Group E, the most extreme example of competitive parity in World Cup history. After 3 matches, Mexico, Ireland, Italy, and Norway all finished with 4 points, an identical record of 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss, and a goal differential of exactly 0. Because the primary metrics were completely gridlocked, advancement had to be determined by total goals scored. Mexico advanced as the group winner with 3 goals. Norway, despite matching the group leader in points and goal difference, was eliminated entirely simply because they had scored only 1 goal across 270 minutes of play. While Group E was an exercise in extreme statistical gridlock, the tournament also produced moments that defied tactical logic entirely. Saudi Arabia, making their World Cup debut, managed to navigate past established European squads like the Netherlands and Belgium. Their advancement was secured by a single physical exertion from midfielder Saeed Al-Awarin against the Belgian defense. Collecting the ball deep in his own defensive half, Al-Awarin carried it approximately 60 meters up the pitch. He accelerated past 6 individual Belgian defenders in a single, uninterrupted sprint before slotting the ball past the goalkeeper, executing an isolation play rarely seen at the highest level of international competition. These extreme disparities, from absolute statistical paralysis to logic-defying solo runs, provided the exact unpredictability required to capture an uninitiated American audience. However, the rigid corporate engineering of the tournament could not control the volatile human factors off the pitch. Argentina arrived with Diego Maradona seemingly in peak physical condition, but a positive test for 5 variants of ephedrine following their match against Nigeria resulted in his immediate expulsion. His departure left a psychological void in the squad and marked the abrupt conclusion of his reign over global football. An even deeper crisis consumed the Colombian national team. After dismantling Argentina 5-0 in qualifying, they entered the United States carrying intense expectations and the heavy burden of navigating their nation's complex internal politics. During a high-tension match against the American hosts, defender Andrés Escobar attempted to intercept a cross, inadvertently deflecting the ball into his own net. The resulting loss eliminated Colombia. Days later, Escobar was murdered in Medellin in direct retaliation for that single defensive error on the pitch. Escobar's murder forced a confrontation with the sport's high stakes. While North American organizers marketed an entertainment product, the results on the pitch carried direct, lethal consequences within the volatility of Colombian social structures. As the tournament shifted into the single-elimination knockout rounds, the chaotic momentum of the group stage gave way to rigid tactical survival. The reigning champions, Germany, arrived at the quarterfinals presenting an imposing, highly disciplined structure, heavily favored to protect the title secured 4 years earlier. Instead, the German defense was systematically dismantled in the span of 3 minutes by an underdog Bulgarian squad. Orchestrated by Hristo Stoichkov, a rapid sequence of a free kick and a diving header eliminated the German dynasty. The American host team faced their own exit on July 4th against Brazil. Though they failed to capitalize on a one-man advantage, their ability to hold the eventual champions to a narrow defeat validated their tactical development. Meanwhile, the Italian national team struggled through the knockout gauntlet, surviving elimination almost entirely due to the individual output of Roberto Baggio. He repeatedly rescued the squad in the dying minutes of matches, masking broader structural weaknesses within the Italian system. The elimination rounds stripped away collective historical dominance. The advancing teams were those that successfully isolated their superstar talent, placing immense psychological pressure on a select few individuals to generate results. The final at the Rose Bowl matched 2 3-time world champions, Brazil and Italy. The match was dictated by severe environmental constraints, as temperatures exceeding 35 degrees Celsius degraded both teams' physical explosiveness and forced a highly cautious approach. While commonly criticized as a tedious, scoreless draw, the 120 minutes of play actually constituted a masterclass in defensive organization against constant offensive pressure. This data visualizes the severe imbalance of the match. Brazil dominated possession and generated 24 total shots over 2 hours. Yet the Italian defense, organized around a deeply disciplined backline, absorbed the pressure, allowing only 7 counterattacks and maintaining a flawless defensive structure. Because neither side could break the deadlock in open play, the 1994 tournament became the first World Cup final in history to be resolved by a penalty shootout. After 4 rounds of kicks, the Italian deficit required Roberto Baggio to score, simply to extend the match. The player who had single-handedly dragged Italy to the final now carried the cumulative mathematical weight of the entire tournament on one strike. He leaned back slightly on his plant foot, miscalibrating the trajectory. The ball cleared the crossbar entirely, securing Brazil's 4th World Championship. Baggio's miss stands as the defining data point of 1994. In a tournament painstakingly engineered by executives to maximize commercial perfection, the climax was ultimately decided by the raw, unpredictable frailty of a human error. When the confetti settled, the focus immediately shifted from the pitch back to the balance sheets. By every corporate metric, the American experiment was an overwhelming financial success. The tournament generated an operational surplus of over $50 million, cleanly doubling the initial projections of the organizing committee. This staggering profit margin proved to FIFA that their product did not need to rely exclusively on European and South American audiences. It permanently validated their strategy of aggressive expansion into lucrative, non-traditional markets, heavily backed by global corporate sponsors. Domestically, the bid to host the tournament came with a strict institutional mandate. The United States was contractually obligated to establish a viable, top-tier domestic league, resulting in the creation of Major League Soccer. The financial triumph of 1994 erased the collapse of earlier American soccer leagues, replacing a fragmented history with a sustainable, highly structured corporate sports ecosystem. But the long-term survival of that ecosystem relied on a massive sociological shift happening in parallel across the United States throughout the 1990s. This chart tracks two distinct demographic trends. Following 1994, an explosive increase in the Hispanic population and a massive surge in suburban youth soccer registrations converged, establishing a permanent baseline of over 14 million active participants nationwide. Through sheer volume of local grassroots participation, the sport shed its perception as an imported novelty and integrated deeply into the fabric of American youth culture. USA 94 succeeded by merging calculated commercial strategy with the high stakes of international competition. It proved the American market's viability, funded the domestic infrastructure, and built the specific demographic foundation required for the massive scale of the 2026 World Cup.